If you're disabled, low income, and honestly just tired of fighting every system that's supposed to help you, I hope you'll stick with me for the next few minutes because we have a lot of resources we're going to cover that may be able to help. Now, I know people have promised you that before, and you've probably filled out dozens of applications that led nowhere. But I want you to know that the resources we're going to talk about today are real, they've been vetted, and they've paid hundreds or thousands, sometimes even $5,000 or more toward things like dental care, home modifications, medications, transportation to appointments, mobility devices, and on and on and on. And the craziest part is that most people have never even heard of these. Now, we have a lot to go over today, but before we dive in, I would love to know what's one thing that could make your life even just slightly easier right now? If you can drop a comment and let us know, that would be amazing because our team reads each and every comment, and that helps us know what we can do to be more helpful for you guys, what we should research next, and so on. I'll just say this up front. The very last program on this list may be the most helpful one of all because I've seen them offer grants of up to $10,000 or more, but there are some other things we're going to cover along the way that may be able to assist you too, so just stay tuned. Now, without any further ado, I want to get into that first program because if you're dealing with dental pain or you've been putting off major dental work because you can't afford it, this could be the miracle you've been waiting for. The first one we're going to talk about today is Dental Lifeline Network, and they provide free dental treatment to those who qualify. So I just want to take a minute to explain how this works. This is a nationwide program where real licensed dentists volunteer their time to give free dental treatment to people who can't afford care because they're disabled, medically fragile, or over age 65. Based on a release I recently saw, it said that they had offered more than $14 million in treatment in the last year. And when you divide that by the number of people that they've helped, you can see that the average person received over $3,200 worth of care. Some people may get more or less depending on the treatment that they need. So if you need help, this is how it works. First, you fill out their application online. You can find it on their website at dentallifeline.org. You'll just need to explain your health situation, your income, and why you can't afford that care. Next, they're going to review your application to make sure that you qualify. You have to meet two conditions. You must have no other way to pay for the dental treatment, and you need to be either permanently disabled, over the age of 65, or have a medical need. Now, there are a few things I think you should know just so that you don't encounter any surprises. This program is not for cosmetic work. They don't do veneers or whitening or anything elective. They also don't do dental implants, which I realize has been disappointing for a lot of people. They like to focus on the big stuff, especially the things that are causing pain. So they'll do things like extractions or dentures or crowns or things that restore your health so that you can actually eat and feel better again. Now, there may be wait lists in some areas, and you can only use this service once in your lifetime. But if you need that help, it is absolutely worth applying. And you can only use Dental Lifeline Network once in your entire life. But if you need that help, it's absolutely worth applying. I know how debilitating dental pain can be. It can make you incapable of basically anything. It's awful. I remember several years ago, before I started low income relief, my husband was stuck in just dental agony because the VA wouldn't cover his treatment. And eventually, a charity stepped in, paid a little bit, got some extractions done, and I will never forget the relief that he experienced from that. So I love programs like Dental Lifeline Network because they provide those little miracles every day, and they're helping so many people get through that kind of a situation. But of course, I know not everyone needs dental work, right? Some people just need a little financial help to reach a goal or stay independent or solve an urgent problem. And that's where the ARC's microgrant programs come in. These are going to be smaller grants, usually between $100, maybe $1,500. But honestly, they're super flexible and they're often designed to serve the areas where that ARC chapter is located. Because they don't exist in every community, but where they do, they can make a huge difference. But like I said, these programs do vary by state. So let me show you how they work by highlighting two states with two very different approaches. So first, in Minnesota, they have something called the Minnesota Microgrant Partnership. These grants usually range from $100 to $1,500, and they're designed to help you with things that support employment or independence or housing stability. You can apply once every 12 months, and you don't even have to be the one to fill out the form. A family member, a friend, a case manager, or a staff member can also apply on your behalf. but there are limits. You can't use the money for rent, recurring bills, vacations, cars, beds, mattresses, gift cards, subscriptions, or software. You have to use it for something that genuinely moves your life forward, whether that's going to be a medical device, a training program, equipment for a job, clothing for work, something like that. And they do reopen applications on the first of every month. So if you miss one application window, the other one is right around the corner. In Oregon, though, it's very different because Oregon uses leftover funds from their special needs trust for this program. So basically, when someone who had a trust passes away, a portion of the unused money is then put into a grant fund to help other disabled people in the state. And they offer a few specific grant categories. So you could get an accessibility grant for up to $2,000, a convention or conference grant for up to $1,000, a final expense grant for up to $1,500, a higher education grant for up to $1,500, or even a legal expense grant for up to $2,500. Now, these grants are designed for people who don't have the resources to cover those kinds of costs on their own. They aren't as flexible necessarily as what Minnesota was offering, but they can solve very specific problems, and sometimes that's what you need. So as you can see, each ARC chapter has its own setup for this. Some don't offer microgrants at all, and some have programs that look like Minnesota's or Oregon's. It just depends on where you are. So you need to make sure that you reach out to your local ARC chapter to see what they offer. The easiest way to do this is to go to thearc.org, click Find Your Chapter, choose your state, and check whether they offer microgrants. Most chapters will have a simple online form if they offer those. Now, the next program we're going to cover is another one that changes lives every day, and most people outside of social work have never even heard of this. It's called Friends of Man. This charity steps in if you need something essential that maybe your insurance won't cover, something that maybe Medicaid denied, or something that's just totally out of reach on your own. And the way they help is surprisingly practical. So all across the country, Friends of Man helps people get essential items and services that improve their health, mobility, and independence. I'm talking about things like wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, braces, prosthetics, hearing aids, glasses, dentures, compression garments, medically necessary equipment that doctors prescribe but insurance just loves to argue with you about. They also help with small home accessibility improvements like ramps or stair lifts in some cases. And they can also help with things like clothing, food, or basic household necessities when the situation calls for it. This is the practical everyday stuff that's going to make a real big difference in your life. Now, the process for this is a little different than you might experience for other programs because you can't apply for yourself. Friends of Man only accepts applications from what they call a referring professional, which is just a fancy way of saying someone whose job involves helping other people. So this can be a caseworker, a social worker, a healthcare provider, a therapist, a school counselor, a pastor, anyone who works in a role that is supportive like that. So that person will need to fill out the application on your behalf, explain what you need, and attach estimates or other documentation. Friends of Man then reviews everything and decides whether they can step in and help. Now, the rules here are pretty straightforward. They look for households who earn less than about 300% of the federal poverty level. That's 3 times the federal poverty level, which means that you can earn more than $45,000 a year as a single person or over $96,000 a year as a family of 4. They do require that you've lived in stable housing for at least 3 months and been substance-free for at least a year. But if you do qualify, they may be able to help you with that long list of items, which can be tremendously helpful. And that is just what they offer nationwide. If you happen to live in Colorado, where they're based, they offer several programs that are specifically for Colorado residents. And this can help with needs over $500, a basic needs program that offers one-time help with food, clothing, or household essentials. They also have a program for employed single parents or those who are undergoing an organ transplant as well. So if you live in Colorado, there's even more that Friends of Man may be able to do to help you. But whether you're local or nationwide, you just need to ask your referring professional to go to friendsofman.org and select either Assistance in Colorado or Assistance nationally, depending on which one you're interested in. Now, before we move on, that's actually an interesting question. I would like to know what state you're watching from, if you're comfortable sharing that, because there's a lot of local programs that do stuff like this, where they offer one thing nationwide and then one thing specific to their area, and a lot of those resources can be really helpful. So if you can just let me know where you're at, that'll help me know where I should be focusing my research in the future. And remember, we are getting closer to that one program I talked about earlier that offers grants of up to $10,000 or more. Before we move on, I want to clear up up a misconception because this is something that even our team has gotten wrong in the past. Okay, Modest Needs is usually known as a program that only helps people who are working. And that's true for most of their grants because their mission focuses on helping people who are like employed but one crisis away from slipping through the cracks. And a lot of their funding is designed to meet that purpose. But, and this is a very important but, Modest Needs does have a special program that helps people who are permanently unable to work. It's called the Independent Living Grant, and it exists because they realized that even the best government programs and charities have gaps, and sometimes people with disabilities fall right through those cracks. So the Independent Living Grant is designed for people who cannot work due to a permanent disability, or for people who are caring full-time for someone who can't work, and it helps with a very small list of specific needs, but they're big needs. For example, they can help with the cost of a medically necessary piece of accessibility equipment that maybe isn't covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. They can also help with a very high utility bill if you rely on medical equipment at home and you're facing a shutoff and there's no other assistance available. And in some cases, they can even help with small car repairs if you need the car to get to doctor's appointments and if your doctor has cleared you to drive and you don't have any other way to get there. This is not a super flexible grant. It can't be used for rent or regular utilities or anything that isn't directly tied to your health or safety. And the maximum grant is usually capped at around $750. But for the right situation, this little grant can be an absolute lifesaver. The application process is pretty smart too. If you go to modestneeds.org and apply and your answers show that you don't meet their normal self-sufficiency criteria, and if you or someone in your home receives long-term disability benefits like SSDI, their system should automatically offer you the option to apply for an independent living grant instead. They do ask for documentation, so you'll need to prove your identity, income, and medical need, but everything should be handled through their website. Now, this next program is one of my favorites. It's called Operation Ramp It Up. And if you or someone you love struggles to get in and out of your home safely, this could be exactly the help that you're looking for. We get a ton of questions about mobility ramps, so I'm hoping that this is going to help a lot of you out. So Operation Ramp It Up installs modular aluminum ramps completely free for people who can't get help anywhere else. These ramps normally cost anywhere from $1,500 to thousands of dollars, depending on the height, the slope, and how long the ramp needs to be. But when this group can help, they cover the entire cost of that ramp and the installation. So a crew of volunteers comes out, they assemble everything, and they make your home accessible in just a few hours. Now, there is one important thing to know here. They only step in after you've been denied by every other possible source of coverage. So they're going to expect you to ask your insurance, Medicaid, state programs. They want all those options exhausted first because they only act as the safety net of last resort. They also can't install ramps at apartments or multi-unit housing because the structure needs a stable exterior foundation. But one of the things I really appreciate is that these ramps can be reused. They use aluminum kits so that when you no longer need yours, the team comes back, they take it apart, and they go install it at someone else's house. It's sustainable, it's smart, and it helps more families get exactly what they need. In fact, I recently helped a disabled veteran in our area connect with an organization like this, and you really don't understand how big a deal this simple ramp can be until you've needed one yourself. Now, if you want to apply for a ramp, you just need to go to operationrampitup.com and click on Apply for a Ramp in the menu. The application has just 11 questions, so it's pretty quick and easy to fill out. And we're going to keep moving because we still have several more programs to get through, and I really want to talk to you about that one that can offer grants of up to $10,000. So please stay with me. In fact, I think we're going to move a little bit faster through these next ones so that we have time to really focus on that final one. So Rebuilding Together has a program called Safe at Home that provides free home safety and accessibility modifications for people with mobility issues or disabilities. These are things like grab bars, handrails, doorway adjustments, lighting improvements, small ramps, raised toilets, all the fixes that prevent falls and help you to stay safe in your home. If you're aging in place or just struggling with a home that doesn't meet your needs anymore, this program can be a lifesaver. You just need to talk to your local Rebuilding Together affiliate. So you go to rebuildingtogether.org, you click on Find an Affiliate, enter your zip code, and your local office will come up. That's the one you need to reach out to. Each one should have its own application form right on the website. You should be able to provide some information there and hopefully get that help. And if they can help, they'll schedule a visit to assess what modifications you need. The next one I want to talk to you about is the LCS Bellows Fund through United Cerebral Palsy. And don't worry, because this is not limited to people who have CP. This fund helps cover the cost of assistive technology, usually up to about $1,000, which means they can help you with things like wheelchairs, communication devices, hearing aids, environment controls, vehicle or home lifts, specialized computer equipment, and more. You can apply through your local UCP affiliate. If you need help finding the one near you, you go to ucp.org, look for the resources page, and then fill out their form to have someone reach out to you. I also want you to know that every state has an assistive technology program that offers device loans, device reuse, sometimes even small grants or low-cost financing depending on what you need. These programs have expensive equipment that you can try for free before committing to it, and sometimes they offer donated devices for little or no cost. Some people save hundreds or even thousands through these programs, and they are available in every state. Every state has its own website. They call it their AT program. But the easiest way to find yours is to search Assistive Technology Program with your state name or go to the link down below. Once you're on your state's page, you should be able to see what services they're able to offer you. Now, if you or someone you love is in an active cancer treatment, first of all, I am so sorry. I have so many loved ones who have been afflicted with cancer, and that is terrible. And you have my just utmost heartfelt love and prayers. But also, I want you to know that there are a handful of hardship funds that help with essential bills. So the amount of help that you can receive will depend on the type of cancer you have and what your situation is. We have a lot of different cancer grant resources on our website. For example, if you have breast cancer, the Pink Fund can help with up to $3,000. Jill's Wish can help with about $1,500, and several other smaller organizations offer support in the $500 to $1,500 range to cover rent, utilities, car payments, and basic living costs while you're in treatment. And that's just for one type of cancer. We're working on getting those lists out for all of the different varieties that are out there. Now, we've come to the part that I promised you at the beginning. And this program might be the most helpful of all, especially for those of you who are wrestling with chronic illnesses that require expensive medications or long drawn out battles with insurance. So this involves what we call patient assistance funds. The best known of these is the PAN Foundation. For example, there is a PAN fund that provides up to $12,200 per year for people with hemophilia to cover the cost of their medications. Another PAN fund offers up to $11,600 per year to help people with Cushing's disease or syndrome pay for their copays and medications. Those two are significant to me because people I know and love are afflicted with those conditions. But there are funds out there for all sorts of different medical conditions. The biggest one that I saw was over $18,000 a year. That is not just a little help, that is some serious relief. And so if you're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for your medications, your copays, your insurance premiums, or your treatment-related costs, this kind of help can change everything. And that's not all either. Once you have an approved copay or health insurance premium grant for your specific condition, you can often get an additional transportation grant. For example, on PAN Foundation, those transportation grants are given in the form of a $500 prepaid Visa debit card that you can use to pay for gas, parking, public transportation, taxis, lodging, or even airfare so that you can get to your appointments. So here's what you need to do. You need to look for a fund that covers a condition that you have. You can go to panfoundation.org, but there are other ones at rarediseases.org, tafcares.org, and so on. You look for the disease-specific fund, and they have dozens. You check whether your diagnosis is eligible, then you can apply. They will ask you for things like your diagnosis, the medications you're on, your insurance information, your household income, your out-of-pocket medical costs. It can be a bit of a headache, but if you meet the criteria and your fund is open, you may be able to get some serious help through this. Now, some of the funds may be on waitlist status, some of them may be open. It just depends on the demand, so timing matters. But honestly, you should apply as soon as you can, even if it means going on a wait list, because the amount of help we're talking about here can be substantial in some cases. I want you guys to know, I know what it's like to be juggling bills and maybe even skipping medication doses because you can't afford them. I also have an autoimmune disorder. I have a chronic condition. My medication is insane. I've been in that boat where I had to go a year without it, and it was agony. We are constantly looking for more resources like this that may be able to help you if you find yourself in a situation like that. So, like I said before, if you can just drop a couple of comments down below, if you want to let us know what state you're in, if you're comfortable sharing that, and like what specific type of help or assistance would be most beneficial to you. Our team loves to get those kind of comments because then we can get in there and research and see what we can find to help you guys. It's the entire reason we're here. We just want to help you guys. So I appreciate you sticking with us today. I hope you found something in this list that's going to be helpful to you. If not, please go check out our other videos on low-income grants, hardship grants, grants for people with chronic illnesses. We are constantly digging up this kind of information. We've got a ton of videos out there for you, and we will have another one tomorrow with more ways that you can save money and get free